Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the August session for our Power Platform UX UI Allies user group. We have aligned a couple of amazing speakers, but before we will go to the fun thing, let's go through a couple of formalities. So first of all, we are a formal Microsoft user group, therefore we do adhere to the Microsoft code of conduct. Therefore, we ask everyone to be respectful and also inclusive toward each other, and please help us to create a safe environment when everyone is welcome to speak up. If you do see something that it doesn't look right to you, either contact myself or Kat or Charlie, or you can also contact Microsoft on the phone you can see on the screen. So at the meeting, as I said, we are asking everyone to be respectful and welcoming, but also please feel free to share your opinions, even if that opinion might different from opinion from others, and also ask question. Either use the chat or you can raise your hand. We welcome any questions and we will be aiming to answer them all for you. Couple of more housekeeping points. So as you can see, the call is being recorded, especially for those who couldn't join us for the live session. And for you who did join, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sunday for most of us is the day to spend with family and friends. So again, thank you so much for being here with us. We encourage you to put your camera on if possible. We want to see all your faces, even if you're still wearing pajama, that's still okay. And do also use the meeting reactions just to show us that you do like the content you're seeing. So the agenda, we went through the quick intro. I will touch on the call for the speakers and also our presenters for today. We have April Dunnam and we have Andrew Smalley. So as I said, quick call for speakers. Thank you to those who already submitted your sessions. We will be contacted with you soon to arrange the future sessions with you, but also we still encourage, please submit. If you have any questions, again, reach out to us directly. We are here to help you and support you, even if when it comes to either choosing a subject or actually preparing for the session. So without the further ado, do we have April with us? Yes, we do. So without the hello, April. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to meet you. So okay, so as I said, without the further ado, April, the virtual floor is yours. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll ask you kindly to start sharing yours. Thank you so much.
All right, so my topic today is using AI and Copilot to build better apps. So, what is a better app? I think that's kind of all up to us to decide. Just it doesn't have to be the ultimate end-all, be-all, immaculate, well-designed app, just better than what you're doing today and better, maybe easier than how you're building it today. So I thought I would kind of walk through the AI toolset that I use to just help either build apps more efficiently or, better, whatever, and show you how some of the stuff works. So if we look at the overall tool set, we have AI and Copilot to help us build applications faster and some of the newer capability to not only build just a single table application, but a multi-table app. So really having that help to not only design the front end of the application, but design the back end entity relationship of the app that we're building. We have Copilot with us to help edit the apps that we're building, Canvas apps. There's Copilots for PowerFX, so we can write better code and just faster code. We have an app Copilot, which is really helping our end user experience to be able to do things like embed Copilot Studio Copilots. And then there's Copilot controls and Copilot for inputs. And then there's some AI builder stuff and Microsoft Copilot that I'm going to walk through. So I figure we'll just run through each one of these and kind of talk a little bit more about them and see how they work. So we'll start with the app creator Copilot here. So this one, it's been around for a while. I don't know Like if anyone wants to do a show of hands, how many people have built an app in Power Apps with Copilot? Just curious. But if you have in the past, you probably use the experience where it just creates a single table application for you, which is good for some cases. But I would argue probably the majority of the times when we're wanting to build an app, we really need a multi-table app scenario, which we can do now with Copilot in preview. But one of the things that I love about building an app from Copilot is when it comes to UI UX, it creates a responsive application for us out of the box. So we don't have to go through the hurdles or anything like that to build that ourselves. So we can get kind of a good framework that we can borrow from to be able to have that responsiveness in our app. So let's just kind of take a look. We'll try this out of how this looks like with the multi-table app experience here. So if we go into your environment, first of all, if you want to have this multi-table app experience, it is a preview thing. So you'll need to toggle on, if you see in the upper right-hand corner here, this try new data experience toggle. So make sure you have that on if you don't see it, and then you'll be able to try this out. So we're going to go here, and we're going to start with data. And we'll see if you have the multi-table experience turned on, this screen will look a little bit different. So we can create new tables here. So, and then we can start with Copilot. So this is where we can put in a prompt of what we want. So I can put in something like, I want an application to track inventory. And it looks a little bit different than what we saw in the original homepage. So one of the things that we can do is have these table options. So we can tell it, do we want it to have a multi-table application? Do we want it to include those relationships? And even, what table size do we want here? So all of that is configurable. But let's click generate and we'll see what it creates for us in this new screen to kind of help build out our data model. So this is really good. I mean, even if you've been using Power Apps for years, this just can really help you think through the process of what you might be not thinking about, what you need from a data standpoint in your applications. So it looks like what I suggested here was a table for inventory and a table for product. So I don't know, may or may not be what you need or not, but you have complete control at this point to keep interacting with Copilot to tweak this relationship here. And you'll see this is the relationship that it configured for us between the two. So if I look, it did like a many to one relationship here between inventory and product. And I can look into each of these tables and view the data and see all of the columns and everything that it added for us. So we have kind of a product ID. So that is a lookup. So it created that lookup column for me to our product table. And it has some stock count, it has a location, and it has a manager, for example. And if we look at the product table, there you go. So that's where it has the product name, the price, and quantity, right? So again, may or may not be kind of something what you need, but we can keep tweaking with Copilot here. So one of the things that it has is this view prompts, and it gives us some ideas of other things that we can do. So we can have it suggest new tables to create, for example. And we can go through and have it look through some other suggestions that we might be missing. So, okay, customer order, that might be another one. So like maybe we want to track customers that it's for. So if we want to use any of these, we can just click on the table name and it will go and create that table as well for us. So pretty cool new functionality. So there we go. So now there's customer. We could have it do things like add a relationship between the customer table and the, let's see, inventory table. And it can do all of that for us. So it can build these relationships, create those lookup fields and everything. So all of this kind of tweakable through Copilot. So it saves, just saving a lot of time. This is a lot of different tables and Dataverse to create. So it's kind of helping us along the way, just get up to building an app faster. And there you go. You see it added that relationship on there for us. Other things we can do natively right from this screen too is if we're coming from maybe an existing process. If we go to the view prompts, you see we can natively import data into this from either Excel, CSV, or SharePoint. So if you have some existing data that you want to incorporate in this new Dataverse structure, you can say import from Excel or whatever that might be. And it will pop up a dialog where you can go and upload the Excel sheet. Let's see if I press enter here. And select from your device. And I don't think I had an Excel actually. I think it was from SharePoint where I had an example. So let's import from a SharePoint list and I'll show you what that looks like really quick if you had some existing data. So it'll pop up here. You can choose your SharePoint list and it'll take all of that data and import that into Dataverse, which, in the past you would have had to do that separately and then create from Copilot. So you can kind of all do this in one screen here, which is really nice. So here's all of our information there. Let's see, let's look at this one. So maybe I had some existing devices or something that I wanted to import in. So there you go, just adding that now onto the canvas, and so that I have that available, right? And oh, cool. So it couldn't import. So we can always refresh if it couldn't. Gotta love live demos of Copilot. But we can always delete that if that's something we don't want. Not sure why that's not working today when it worked yesterday, but you never know with Copilot. Oh, cool. And it won't even let me delete it. Nice. There we go. Let me try that. There we go. We got it deleted there. But just showing you, kind of what you can do and mix and match. So now if we save and open this application, for example, just, say that we're good with it, we can see the application that it builds. So again, in the past, when we used Copilot, single table application, which means we had a single screen app as well. So we just had a gallery, and then we had a form control, and that's kind of all we got. This is going to use that same design, that same responsive design for all of the tables that we have, but we'll also get a landing screen along with this where we can navigate between the different tables. So we can have a multi-screen app this way. Yes, persistence is the key for sure when working with Copilot. Gotta have some patience and persistence. And yeah, this is the part that takes the longest here, is just opening the app. And I definitely like seeing in there that where it's kind of integrating, even though this is when we're using Copilot solely creating tables in Dataverse, and that's kind of what we have to go with, just at least the ability to take existing data from Excel and SharePoint and integrate that in through the process is a really nice addition that I was happy to see.
I'm not gonna lie, this is just blowing my mind today. Like I saw this come out I don't know, it was like a couple of weeks ago I saw an announcement.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I gotta get into this. And I'm glad I'm here to see this live in person.
Yeah, it's what we've, I think, all wanted and needed for a long time with Copilot, to really take it to the next level and be that much more helpful to actually integrate into our daily kind of process here for building apps. So it's really cool to see. So
Yeah.
as we can see, what it gave us here is this is that multi-screen app that I was talking about. So we have a welcome screen where we can kind of browse amongst all the different screens that we have here. So there's the inventory table, for example. So this will look familiar if you used Copilot before, kind of that standard look and feel. But again, all of it being responsive when we didn't have to do anything. So it's just using containers for everything that it's building for us. And the other thing that you'll notice too, this little globe icon, since it is using Dataverse, we have the capability that's relatively new, I don't know, a few months old now, to have native mobile offline for Dataverse data. So that's what this is showing, is that we're connected. So that's all built in when you build an app with Copilot as well. So you have an offline capable application built on Dataverse that's responsive, which is really cool and time saving, especially compared to how we had to do that in the past before the Copilot days. So there we go. So we can see kind of what we got. And like I said, even if this isn't the end all beat all of what you want, it gives you a really good solid foundation that you can start with, and then you can tweak and manage from there. So that kind of leads us into the other piece of the pie that we were talking about here, and that is the app editor Copilot. So this is where, you went off, you created an application, whether, manually or with Copilot. Now you need to make some tweaks and kind of finish building that out. So that's what this does. You can add objects onto the canvas, you can do some formatting, and you can also just ask it how to do things. And it is context aware of what you have selected. So if we were to go back here, for example, this is the Copilot that shows up. You can kind of activate it and hide it with this button here on the upper right-hand side. But we can get some quick help. So again, if you're just really fast at building apps and you have your process, this may or may not be super useful to you. But if you are still kind of getting your bearings and building applications, this is going to be really a kind of a game changer, honestly, to help you build applications faster, because you can have it kind of do some things for you instead of hunting down exactly where that is. So if I wanted to, let's see, we'll go to this screen, and maybe I didn't really see a button to submit anything here, and I didn't know if one was missing. So I can go into this main container and I can say, add a button to submit this form. And it will go through and add that for me onto the canvas there. So there we go. And I could have specified as well, like the exact container that I wanted it in, but I can move it around. So there's a button, and you see not only is it adding objects, but it's adding the PowerFX code at the same time. So if we look at the on select, it added the submit form with the context of form 3, because it knows the screen that I'm on that I want to add the button on. So it didn't go and add it onto like the customer screen or anything like that. So it just kind of helps you kind of get to value faster and all that. And it's also really useful for help. If you forget how to do something, rather than having to go open up another tab and look through the forums or look through the documentation, you could just ask it, how do I do things? Like, how do I combine two values, right? Something like that. And it will come back with some quick answers using Copilot and all the data it's trained on, and how to do stuff in Power Apps. So there's a quick answer that I need to use the concatenate formula, and now I can take that and use that. So really, really helpful just for getting started faster. All right, so say we've used this to tweak the application. Now, what else do we have here that we can do with this? So let's go back and look at where we're at. So we've built an app with Copilot that's helped us get there faster. We've edited it. Now, what is the hardest part typically? I mean, obviously UI, UX, there's a lot of work that goes into there, but the probably next second hardest thing is just the logic layer in writing the quote unquote code for your application, which is PowerFX. So that's where the PowerFX Copilot can really help you build faster and maybe even build better applications with more refined code if you're not already. So what this does is it gives us, it can explain formulas. So you'll see a Copilot button, and we'll look at that in a second, where it can tell you what's going on with the formula. So if you've inherited an application, or if you just forgot what you did 2 months ago and you want a quick explanation, that's really helpful. At the moment, it is limited to 4,000 characters. So if you have a really long formula, it's not going to be able to have the context of all of that, but it is good for shorter formulas. So just be aware of that. But this can also write PowerFX code for us. So we can act like we're just putting in a normal comment here, and we can have it describe what we want to do with Copilot, and even do things like format by example. So if we were to go here into this application, for example, we can take a look at what this looks like. So we have a gallery, and we have quite a few things going on. If we look at the items property of this, now we'll see this Copilot button right there in the PowerFX formula bar. And if we click on that, we can have it explain this formula. So again, very helpful if you just want to get a quick glance of what's going on. So letting us know that this is filtering where the price is greater than 5, then it does some searching based off of the search box, and then it sorts the results. So it gives us a really clear and concise answer there. Another really cool thing you can do is copy that. So if you do want to comment your code, you can always take that and kind of make that the comment for your code, so people know at a glance without you having to ask Copilot what's going on in your code there. So that's really helpful. Now, the other thing that we can do with this, though, is if we look at any one of these objects in this gallery, so say this is the price of the item. Well, it's not formatted as currency value. So if I click on any one of these objects, you see we have a Copilot button right here. So we can use Copilot to do some quick text formatting. So I love this ability to do some formatting by example. So again, rather than having to go know the formula, it's going to show me the current format. Then I can just have a desired format, and it even suggests some things. So it knows that this is a currency field, so you probably want to format it as so, and it gives you some options, whether you just want to round it up, get the full value. So maybe I want to round it up there. And now it applies and shows you a formula which you can go apply, and then it's active for everything in the gallery there. So really some quick help for kind of getting and doing some of that formatting there. Now, the other thing, though, as I mentioned, is we can have it actually write some PowerFX for us. So when we select one of these products, I want to get the product ID here. But if we look at it, everything is prefixed with the word product, and then there's the actual number. So I just want to get the number from there. I might not know how to write that in PowerFX. So instead of pointing it directly to this gallery product ID, I can act like I'm running a comment, and I could say get the value after the underscore in the, there you go. And then you see when I do that, it was saying generating really quick. And then now there's this kind of grayed out text. Going to look very GitHub Copilot-y if you use that. I just pressed tab there, and now that applied that whole formula for me. So I don't have to know all the ins and outs of what even is the mid formula, like how is it going and doing all that magic. It just wrote that for me, right? So this is really, really powerful. and cool to just save you time and write code and all of that stuff with Power Effects. And I use this all the time just because it's that much faster to get started. So it's super helpful. Cool. So that's Power Effects Copilot. Let's keep going and exploring some of the other abilities we have. So we've already kind of did a lot of tweaks here. And the other thing we have is the app Copilot. So this one right here is allowing us to bring a Copilot from Copilot Studio to your Power App. So this is really helping with your end user experience, giving your end users a way to be able to call a Copilot and get answers about whatever the relevant thing is for that application, right? And it's integrated right into the toolbar. So this is all configured in the settings of your app. So just to show you what I'm looking at here, let's open Copilot Studio. And I've already built out a Copilot using one of the templates that we have here, which is the Safe Travels template. And that's just going to answer random travel information about traveling to the US and or Canada, if it'll load here. Or you can just trust me that it's there. So what you can do, any app that you have that you want to enable this Copilot experience, you can go into the settings, and there's this Copilot tab now. So in that Copilot tab, you'll have a drop down and again, environment aware. So any Copilot that you have built in the same environment that your app is in, it'll show here in the drop down that's built and published. So now I can just bind this to that Safe Travels Copilot. And for our end users, that's available for them to get any questions answered. So I did that, I saved it, I published the app. And if we look at the user kind of experience of the app, like what we have now, say I want to get some travel answers, I can go click on that Copilot button. And this is the app Copilot. So it's going and calling that Copilot Studio. And here you go. You can even ask it like, what can I ask? But I can say things like, where is the best place to travel in the US for, let's see, gambling? That'd be an easy one, probably. Any question you want. We can ask about visa policies, right? And there you go. So like Vegas, of course, that's the place you're going to go if you're into that kind of thing. Then it gives you a quick answer. So this is integrated right into there. You don't have to worry about building all this stuff out in your application, right? Like you can get rid of an entire FAQ screen that you might have needed in your app by just putting in integrating a Copilot, right? So it gives you a way to have these kind of quick win to your user experience by having this app Copilot capability baked into your app, which is all, it can be refreshed, you can restart it, you can hide it and all that. And it's kind of out of the way until they need it, which is really cool. Awesome. All right, moving right along. So we have the app Copilot, and that's probably like the biggest value. But the other thing that we have too is a Copilot control. So this is a physical control that we can add in to our Power Apps, and we can bind it to data, like a certain table in our application. And this can be Dataverse data, but it also works with SharePoint, Excel, and all of those different data sources as well. So you bind it to your data source, and then you can have that chat-like experience about the data. So I've added one in here, and just to show you how that's added into the screen, let's go over here. And all you have to do is go to Insert, and then if you search for Copilot, you'll see two different options that are in preview. So there's the actual Copilot control that we're seeing here, but there's also one called Copilot Answers. That's a little bit different. So if I'll just add it onto the screen really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. It's not a chat-based experience. It's you put in a pre-canned prompt that you want this to show the result of, and it will show that result in a little card kind of format here. So if we look right now, the default is to summarize some records, but I can say show the highest price item or something like that. And then we can configure, do you want the user to have to click that send button to be able to see that result, or do you want to show it immediately when they open up the app? So if I click that, and then of course we have to bind it to a data source. So it kind of looks like a gallery in that way. You bind it to a specific data source like this inventory list. And now it has the context of the data. And if I were to say play this application, there you go. So as soon as we run it, it goes and generates that input, that output, and then shows the data. So it can kind of give you like a dashboard tile kind of effect for your end users. So that's kind of the use case for that, kind of more of a niche use case there. But for the Copilot control, that is if you want to have that chat experience based on a very specific data source. So we've bound this right here to the inventory table, that same one, and now I can ask questions about that as an end user. Anything I want to ask, like what is our lowest priced item? Something like that, and it can go and it can get that information for me. So Again, when you're thinking about UI UX, all this stuff you traditionally would, you need searches, you need filtering, you need sorting, all this kind of stuff for your users to get the same information. But now you can kind of provide this Copilot experience and give them kind of an easier way to find that specific information that they're looking for. So it does really go a long way to help with your user experience. And then I can say like, and how many of those do we have in stock, and have this conversation with the Copilot there. So taking all this context of because this is the same inventory list that we see here on the left-hand side, and then it's context aware. So it knows that I just asked about the lowest priced item, and now it's going to show, okay, we have 40 of those in stock that we're talking about. So just another way to elevate your user experience there. Okay, we are chugging right along. So we looked at the Copilot control. The other thing that we have that is like pretty much free, that you don't have to do anything to take advantage of and to help your end users, is Copilot for rich text. So this one is cool. It kind of snuck in there, I think, recently for Canvas applications. So this gives an integrated experience for your end users to be able to draft text with Copilot. This only works with multi-line text fields or rich text. So if you're not seeing it, that's why. You have to have a multi-line or rich text field. So I just have a multi-line text input using the model control in here. And now you see when I click on that, I have this dialog here that pops up that says Draft with Copilot. So I can select that, and if I'm an end user and I want to put something in there, I can put my text and it will refine that with Copilot. So I just have some text here. So this is like to put in a speaker bio. So I can say Draft with Copilot. I took my really long-winded one from LinkedIn, and I can say something like, let's just enter that, and I'll show you kind of what it gives us and then how we can refine that with Copilot here. Okay, so it gave me kind of a changed version of the input that I had, but I can tweak it here. So if I click on this, I can tell it, do I want the response to be short, medium, or long? So maybe from here, I can say I want it to be really short, and I want it to be in a friendly tone. And then I can have it regenerate that based off of those kind of conditions that I have. And then it kind of reframes that conversation here. I can even change the prompt itself. So I can say add more details, and I can say, let's see, put this in the third person, mentioning April, okay? So I can do that, and then it will go through and take that prompt that I put in along with the context of the text and reframe that text for me. So it's all customizable, and if I'm good, I can say looks good, and now that applies that to that input. So this is, you don't have to specifically enable anything other than going into the admin center and turning on the preview features capability, since it is in preview right now. But this is like a freemium thing that you get for any of your multi-line or rich text fields in Canvas apps. And we have similar things for the model-driven side as well, for like email fields to be able to draft with Copilot and all that, and that's just all baked in for us as well. Cool. So let's keep looking at some of these other options. So we're getting towards the end here. The other thing, so we're going to kind of move out of Copilot land for a minute, and we're going to talk about AI Builder. So AI Builder has been around for a while, and it's a really great way to kind of add more capability to our applications. So we have pre-built controls where we can add in different AI capability, but we also have the ability to use AI prompts to add some generated AI capability. So I really want to show the AI prompts because I think that's a way to add a lot of AI power to your applications. So AI prompts kind of behave, this is an example of one right here. So you can build them either from Power Apps or Power Automate, but they're baked into AI Builder, and it's just a separate model. It's the Create Text with GPT model, and you can define your own custom prompts. So anything that you can imagine that you want to do, whether it's summarizing text, extracting task out of text, generating things like write a blog post based on this topic. If you have a prompt for that, you can go build a prompt in AI Builder, and then you can use that in your Power App. So this really elevates your end user experience here. So if we look, all I did on the screen, like imagine that we have a help desk process or application. So people are going, submitting tickets for issues. Well, it could be cool to add some kind of capability in your application to give end users a way to do some kind of self-service thing before they actually go and submit the ticket. And with self-service, you can use AI and a prompt to go and kind of suggest some things to try before you actually go and submit the ticket. So that's kind of the scenario that we're looking at here. All I did was add in some text inputs. And if we look at the data to use an AI prompt, it's just like adding any other data source. So if I go search here, we have our AI models. Any of those prompts will show up here as its own separate model. So like this time off, this time management one, we see that's a custom prompt. So you would just click on that, like I did with the IT expert and travel itinerary, and those custom prompts are available to use in my app. And you call them just like you call any data source. So if I look at this submit button, this is where I'm actually calling that prompt. I'm saying, hey, go to the IT expert prompt and then pass in the text that I have right there. And then that's outputting the response into this text box here. Then they can look, they can try it, and if it doesn't work, they can go on and continue to submit their request. So just showing how this all kind of works. We'll go back to the end user experience of the app. And I'll say, let's see, I don't know, if anyone has suggestions for an issue that you want me to put in here, go ahead, but I'll just put in anything.
My printer stopped working.
Okay, I'm going to have the typical printer. My printer stopped working. Cool. All right, so I'll put that in, click submit. That's going and calling. Oh, wow, that's not super helpful. Please go ahead and give me more details. I guess I wasn't specific enough. Let's see, I'll refine the prompt because a lot of this is refining prompts. I need help troubleshooting my printer. I'll say it shows an error and isn't working. Okay, I'll just try being a little bit more specific this time and see what it does. There we go. Okay, so that's a typical problem, right? Like people put in the most vague things in these tickets, and then we're trying to figure out what it is. Even AI has the same problem. Okay, so and it gives us a step-by-step instruction of things that we can try here. So check out the error message, make sure that it's connected to power. But have you tried turning it on and off again? Basically, is what it's telling us here. But now we can try these, and then we can go and submit the ticket. And just to show you what that specific prompt looks like, so you have an idea, we'll go over here, try to find that. There we go, IT expert. So this is just telling the AI that I want you to act as an IT expert, and I'm specifically telling it here to reply in a bullet point format so that it has a list of steps, right? And to be as succinct as possible. So this is all that's doing, and you can have inputs in these prompts. So we're just inputting the issue and passing that from the Power App into there. So you can notice in the IntelliSense there, if I were to go and call this, it kind of tells you on the predict action there, like what it expects. Whoops, let me delete there. Here we go. Okay, there you go. So it's telling you need to put in the issue here, just like when we use any of the other connectors. So there we go. We'll wire that back up and we're good to go. Cool, so that's just one example of many. If you wanted to do something like a travel itinerary process, this is another prompt that I have. It's like, hey, I'm going somewhere in these dates, like build out a travel itinerary for me. So I can say that I'm going to, I think I have to go to Mexico City next month for an AI tour event. So I'm just gonna put in my dates here when I'm gonna leave. It's gonna be a very short trip. And then you can even put in your interests. So in this particular prompt, it's going to have me put in what I'm interested in, and it will custom build the travel itinerary based off of that. So I like music, I like margaritas, and food, all right? So those are my interests, and we'll click submit. And now same thing, same scenario, calling the prompt. And there we go. Now we have a custom travel itinerary that we can look at. So that looks pretty good. Give me some historic sites, and even I had a specific action in the prompt to like tell me what to wear too, because I always struggle with what to wear on trips. So it's suggesting like what attire, like casual attire, and don't forget the sunscreen and all those important things. So just several different ideas that we can have to integrate this into our Power Apps. Okay. So all of this leading up to the final thing and the way that I use AI into my daily work stream to build better apps, and that's with Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot, there is a free version that you can have. So just go to copilot.microsoft.com, and you can do all kinds of generative AI type things, right? So you can create images, you can have it generate text, you can have it proofread stuff, whatever you want to do. So how I use this to build better Power Apps is one, to create visuals. So that's one thing that we always need in our Power Apps. We need some kind of visuals. I mean, heck, go back to that application that we just had built, right? We have inventory, customers, and products. We probably want some custom visuals for this, right? So I would have to go search through some royalty-free image resources for that. Or, now we do at least have the capability to get some stock images, which is great. But if we want something more custom, we can use Microsoft Copilot for that. So if we go and look at an example here, there we go. So I'll try this out. All right, so here's Microsoft Copilot. So I'm just going to paste in a prompt. So you can be, the really key to getting the result that you want with this is being as specific as possible. So you'll notice first thing is I'm specifically calling out like a color code that I want as the primary color, and that happens to be the Power Apps purple. So the image should be subtle and soft with some glowing elements. So just trying to get it to generate kind of a nice image that I can have as a background on my screen, right? So let's go and submit that and see what it comes up with. So I use this all the time. I love the stock image capability that's in there, but I just like having something more custom sometimes. Oh, really? Why is, oh wait, okay, hold on. You got to be in the right Copilot. You got to be on the web one to get what you want. There we go. That's what I was expecting to see. And then again, you can continue to tweak this and all of that, but we'll just go with one of the ones that it has here. I mean, that's not bad. It is very dreamy, like I said, like I wanted. That couldn't be a cool background image, right? So I can save that. See background there. Oh, I already have that. Okay, whatever. And we'll go back to our app. Yeah, let's just go into this one. Let's add a new screen. So maybe I want this to be my background image, so we'll upload that. Why? There we go. And there we go. Now we got a nice background for our Power App, right? With Copilot and AI. Not too bad, not too shabby. Okay, so that's one really cool thing. But what else can we do with this besides the whole image thing? Well, another thing that I use all the time is to help me write HTML, because even though I try to avoid, using the HTML control all over the place, just because, it's a little taxing, from a performance standpoint and just from a maintainability standpoint, there is a time and a place to use it. And if you need help creating the HTML, Copilot is really helpful for that. So you can kind of optimize the HTML used in there. So let's take a look at an example of that. All right, so for this, one of the things that I might use the HTML control that we can't really do natively is to have some kind of gradient effect. So I want to be able to spell out Power Apps in my application and have it be a rainbow of colors spelled out, right? So that's something that I'm describing here. I'm even specifying, again, you'll see the Power Apps purple as the starting color for the gradient, and I want it to be very vivid, and I'm specifying the number of pixels that I want it to be. And you'll notice that this is the key part of it. Use inline CSS for the styling and format the output so it's compatible with Power Apps by replacing any double quotes with single quotes. So this is the important part, as we know, like if we're just trying to copy HTML snippets, out there and use those, we have to do so much manipulation of the formatting because, it might have separate CSS styles. It might have, the formatting that is standard for HTML. This will do all that for us. So now I don't have to do any of the formatting. I can just copy that. We'll go over here and let me remove our nice background image because it might not show up with that. And we'll add in an HTML control. There we go. And now all I have to do, hopefully, assuming it works. Oh, really? Come on. It just worked. Why didn't it? It didn't get the colors. That's interesting. Sometimes if you try it multiple times too, it'll get you. Whoops, that's not what I want. Get you what you want there. Let me try this one more time. I'm gonna try removing this part. Maybe it doesn't like that. We'll just say multiple colors, and I won't even make it specify the color. We'll see what it gets here, because you need to see the rainbow of colors. I mean, that's the important part here. Okay. There we go. That's more like it. Yay. Okay. So you see again that the main thing that I'm getting across here is we've all probably used HTML to do stuff like this in our app, but it's the nightmare of the formatting and getting it just right. Copilot can help us with that. So even if you're just starting, you found a really cool sample online, you can run it through Copilot, tell it to do that formatting like I did, escaping double quotes with single and using inline CSS, and it can format an existing example for you. And we can have something cool like this to add into our apps. So I use this all the time, anytime I want to have HTML in my Power App. Okay, leading us on the home stretch here, the final thing that I wanted to show is using Copilot for regular expressions. So this one, again, regex is something that can be a pain to have. So say in our Power App, we have a very specific number that we want to make sure people are putting for an ID number. So we can have it write a regex for us. So we want to validate a string that should always start with the letters P and A, and it should be followed by a dash in 5 characters, right? So we all have that process where we have a very specific kind of format that we want. So I can put that in, and there you go. It looks like it has what I need there. So we'll just go back in. We'll take a look. Let's go over here. I am totally blind on where I put this. Great. Where is my Copilot? There we go, Microsoft Copilot integration. Okay, so we'll go and add a text here, and then let's see, I'll add an inputs. Let's do that because this gives us the actual regex, but we still got to wire it up so that we can see if it works. So this is my input. So I'll say text box input. And then this is where I'm going to do the test. So we can use in this text field the isMatch formula, and we can just pass in our text box input. And then this is the regex that we got from Copilot. Okay, oh, I got to get the value there, dot value. Cool. So right now that's false, right? So now if I do PA-12345, there we go. Now it changes to true. So I just had a regular expression that it wrote for me. And if I change it back, yeah, don't have the exact number of 5 characters, then it's back to false. So I can have that validation there, and Copilot helped me out with it. So those are all the things that I wanted to show and how I use that to kind of help my daily life. Hopefully some tips, something in there you found was helpful. And thank you for having me. And I don't know if there's time for questions or if we have any, but happy to answer them if so.
I just want to say thank you so much, April.
That was amazing. Thank you. If I will ever meet you, I will be buying you margaritas all night. So yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Good.
Vegas, Anya.
Yeah,
Vegas.
there you go. Vegas.
Vegas, yes, absolutely. Any questions? Any questions for April before we move to next session? Yes, we do have a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So, by the way, thanks for this great session. This has been excellent. So my question is around Copilot control. So last week I saw there is a new feature on the Copilot control saying create new Copilot. And when I click that, it takes me to Copilot Studio. So is that very similar to App Copilot? So I'm trying to implement this in my organization, but initially I was only able to connect one table, and that was the Dataverse tables. But right now, when I click Create New Copilot, it takes me to Copilot Studio. And obviously with Copilot Studio, I can connect to multiple knowledge sources. So when I create that Copilot Studio, does that mean my Copilot control can have multiple knowledge sources?
Yes, great question. So there is a setting there if you use that Copilot control on the right-hand side to connect to Copilot. So it's kind of doing the same thing exactly that the app Copilot is doing, where you bind it to a Copilot in Copilot Studio. And to your point, you can have multiple data sources and all of that, rather than the single data source that you can bind to out of the box. So you can do that. I don't know ultimately if they're going to keep that or, since it's kind of go with the app Copilot approach. I don't know what the strategy is with both of them, honestly, but you can, if you want to have that embedded in the app Copilot experience, bind it to a Copilot as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a start. So thanks so much, everyone. Thanks again to Kat and Anya and Charlie for giving me the opportunity to present today. It's a real honor to be here. I also feel very extremely privileged and slightly starstruck to be presenting alongside April, who I'm a huge fan of. So I really love your session, April. So let me quickly introduce myself. I'm getting 1 second, going click happy here. Let me quickly introduce myself. So I'm Andrew Smalley. I live in Scotland and I'm a Power Platform developer with the Sword Group. Here's a photo of me at the Power Platform conference last year in Las Vegas. Here I am taking a selfie outside a makeup store in the MGM Grand shopping mall. I thought that this was a great opportunity for a LinkedIn profile photo because I thought the splash of color represented the core Power Platform products and also reflected my creative personality. So if you're planning on attending the community conference next month, watch out for that store and think of me. So I've worked in the oil and gas industry for 20 years now, and my core area of expertise was in geoscience, data and information management. I began my Power Platform journey back in 2017 as a citizen developer, starting with Power BI and then quickly progressed to Power Apps and Power Automate, etc. So someone who's neurodiverse and also passionate about design, I feel right at home here. I absolutely love the Power Platform as it enables me to use design as my superpower to showcase my talents visually through the creation of beautiful apps, but performant apps, April, and reports and websites. I don't have a formal background or training in design. In fact, that statement's no longer strictly true, as earlier this year I started my professional diploma in UX design, which was something I always wanted to do. So when I was asked if I wanted to present in today's meeting, I picked a subject which I found quite fascinating from my UX design course. So full disclaimer, remember, I'm still a UX designer in training, so please be gentle. So finally, you can find me on LinkedIn if you want to find out more about me. I'm also hoping to launch my own YouTube channel at some point in the future, so watch this space. Okay, so in my presentation today, we will explore Jakob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics, which are the 10 commandments for creating user-friendly interfaces. We'll start by understanding what heuristics are and how heuristic evaluations can improve the design process. So let's get started. So a heuristic is essentially a rule of thumb or a broad guideline that UX designers can use to create more intuitive and user-friendly designs. A heuristic evaluation is a method that's commonly used by designers to assess a product's usability. So this involves reviewing the product's user interface and comparing it against a set of best practice guidelines, what are also known as heuristics. So the goal here is to identify any usability issues in the design so that we can fix them and create a better user experience. So just to recap then, in this session, we're going to focus specifically on Jakob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics, which are the most widely used sets of heuristics. So these heuristics have stood the test of time and they continue to be used today as the benchmark for evaluating user interfaces. Jakob is one of the co-founders of the Nielsen Norman Group, which is recognized as the leading authority in UX design and research. So now let's go ahead and discuss each of Jakob's heuristics in a little bit more detail. Okay, so Jakob's first heuristic is visibility of system status, and it's probably the most important heuristic of all. This means that users should be kept informed about what the software is doing by providing prompt and useful feedback. So providing feedback about the system status helps reassure users that the software is working properly, so they're not left wondering what on earth is going on. So let's see an example. So you'll be pleased to know that no Canvas apps were harmed during the creation of this presentation. And as a result, I created these graphical examples to illustrate either compliance or violation with each of the heuristics that we're going to discuss today. So in the example on the left, this is an example of an app where a user has selected some movies to download. The progress bar is used to inform the user the status of each movie download. So this real-time feedback provides confirmation to the user the system is working and how they might need to wait, how long they might need to wait. So whereas the example on the right, the only feedback provided is just a bunch of dots traveling across the screen. Sound familiar? Anyway, without adequate feedback, the user might think that the system is broken or unresponsive, leading to frustration and potentially abandoning the task altogether. So you can see by providing timely feedback, this can enhance the user's experience, build trust with the system and even the brand, and encourage them to continue using the product. The second heuristic states that there should be a match between the system and the real world. This means that the system should speak the user's language and use concepts that are familiar to the user rather than using technical terms or jargon. So for example, when we see a shopping cart icon on an e-commerce website or app, we immediately understand its purpose. And why is that, Andrew? Let me tell you. It's because we know how physical objects work in the real world. Every week we get in our car, we drive to the grocery stores and we place items in our cart that we want to purchase. So as a result, we're able to match that real world experience to the digital world. So let's see another example. So in this food ordering app, the example on the left uses icons such as a shopping cart to allow the user to review their order, a trash can to remove items from the order, and a magnifying glass to search the menu. So these design elements are universally understood icons which require no further explanation. However, if we start to deviate from using standard conventions, this is where you can break mental models, which can cause confusion. So the example on the right uses what's supposed to be a cardboard box icon in place of a shopping cart icon. And to be honest, this icon looks more like my Wi-Fi router than a cardboard box. The design also uses technical terms like commit and purge, which may be unfamiliar to the user. If this was a different type of app, for example, uploading code to a code repository in the cloud, then the audience may be different and more technical and understand that language. But in the context of this app, which is a food ordering app, these terms are too technical for everyone to understand. So you can see that using familiar language and concepts makes the system easier to understand and use, reducing the learning curve and potential for error. The third heuristic is all about making users feel that they're in control when they're using the software. So users should have the freedom to be able to easily undo actions without the fear of being punished if they make mistakes. As you know, the most commonly used commands to undo an action is Control-Z. And this provides a convenient emergency exit if you make a mistake, such as sending an email to the wrong person or even the entire organization, or submitting an incomplete post on social media, which is something that I still do. So let's take a look at another example. So here we are back with our app for downloading movies. And so in this example, the user has selected some movies to download to their device. If the process is taking much longer than the user expected, the cancel button or icon lets the user back out if they change their minds. Whereas the example on the right, the system doesn't provide any method to be able to cancel the request. So by providing ways to easily undo actions or exit processes, gives users more confidence that they're in control. The fourth heuristic is consistency and standards. So this means that things should look and work the same across your website or app. This is what we call internal consistency. Jacob's law states that people spend most of their time using other websites and other applications. So as a result, users become accustomed to familiar design patterns and conventions. This is what we call external consistency. So if your design aligns with these common patterns, users will find it easier to navigate and use your product. So let's see some more examples. So this is an example app built for remote workers to reserve a desk when visiting their office. This app design can be described as internally consistent because its look and feel is consistent as the user navigates from one screen to another. Here you can see that all the colors, the fonts, buttons and icons, they all fully align with the style guide. Also, the usage of the hamburger menu icon and cancel icons is an example of external consistency as their purpose is universally understood. And also their position on the app canvas is consistent with where users might expect to find them if they're using a Power App, that is. This example, however, demonstrates a clear lack of consistency or alignment with any standards. Users might think that this app is still under development, or it's not even the same app as they navigate between screens. Furthermore, the users may even struggle to even trust the app due to the lack of alignment with the company brand. So you can see that by maintaining consistency across your product and following established industry conventions makes it much easier to learn and adopt. Okay, so the fifth heuristic is about error prevention. So this heuristic states that the best practice is always to try and design systems that prevent errors from happening in the first place. So let me share with you a true story about a user error. So a few years ago now, my father was on holiday in Switzerland. He'd had a lovely meal with my mother and he went to pay his restaurant bill. The waiter presented him with the card payment machine, and my father thought that the card payment machine was asking for his PIN number, and in fact, it was actually asking him if he wanted to leave a tip. And I bet you can guess what happened next. My father was very embarrassed, having to explain to the waiter why he'd left such a generous tip and that he'd really like a refund. So let's just quickly talk about what should have happened here. So the system could have easily been designed to recognize the user error and provide an option to cancel the transaction. Let's take a look at another example. So in these examples, the app users have accidentally selected the option to reset their phone to the factory default settings. So fortunately, the app on the left is designed to prevent the user from making a serious error and provides a confirmation pop-up allowing them to cancel the action. Whereas the example on the right does not provide the same emergency exit to escape that unwanted action and proceeds with the phone reset. It does provide a pop-up and cheekily says, "Restore completed, have a nice day. Thanks very much." So the moral of the story here is by preventing errors early, we reduce user frustration and create a much more positive interaction with the system. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a short break from heuristics. So let's have a couple of jokes. I hope you like cheese, as these were the cheesiest jokes that I could find with the help of my friend Copilot. So joke number one, why did the UX designer take a map to her meeting? I don't know, let me tell you, because she wanted to discuss the user journey. Let's have one more quickly. So why did the app maker take a ladder to work? He took a ladder to work because he wanted to elevate the user interface and take it to the next level. I hope you found my cheesy jokes funny. Let's now take a look at those 5 remaining heuristics. Okay, so the 6th heuristic states that the system should promote recognition rather than recall, which are 2 different types of memory retrieval. So in my opinion, I believe that I've got a good memory for faces, but if I were to bump into someone on the street that I've not seen in a while, I probably wouldn't be able to instantly recall their name, which is sometimes quite embarrassing. So this is because it's easier to recognize someone or something rather than recall specific details or facts. So let's see an example. So the example on the left here is a travel request app, and it provides a list of cities to choose from as the user starts to type Portugal as their point of origin. Here, the user is able to recognize immediately that Lisbon is the city that they need rather than struggling to remember the name of the airport or even the airport code. However, the example on the right doesn't provide any options and forces the user to recall the exact name of the city. So by making options visible, this results in an interface that is much easier to use and reduces the memory demands on the user. The 7th heuristic is flexibility and efficiency of use. So this means that the system should be flexible and cater for both inexperienced and experienced users. Accelerators are hidden shortcuts that allow more experienced users to interact with the system more efficiently. So for example, a novice Instagram user that wants to like a photo, they would first of all need to locate the heart icon and then tap it. Whereas a more experienced user of Instagram can use the so-called hidden features, such as tapping twice on the picture, making it easier for them to accelerate the process. So let's see some more examples. So these are all good examples, by the way. So the example on the left is a tutorial screen. I'm sure we've all added tutorial screens to our Power Apps before, and these provide step-by-step instructions on how to use the app. More experienced users can take a shortcut and bypass the tutorial completely by simply selecting skip. The example number 2 in the middle is a multi-page form for submitting some sort of request. Rather than forcing users to complete the entire 5-page process, the app provides the flexibility to save that partially completed form as a draft and then come later. Finally, the example on the right provides some accessibility preferences. So this provides the option for users to be able to customize the system to meet their personal preferences. So as well, allowing users to customize and tailor the system to their personal needs it also improves efficiency and satisfaction. Number 8. So heuristic number 8 is aesthetic and minimalist design. In the dry runs, I said athletic rather than aesthetic, but we're doing okay. It's probably because of the picture and the Olympics on the TV at the moment. This means that the design should be simple and only show what's necessary. Too much information can actually overwhelm users. For example, a clean interface that's not cluttered with unnecessary design elements helps users focus on important tasks without distraction. So keeping the design simple and focus enhances usability and creates a much more positive user experience. Now, a great example of minimalist design is Google.com. The search bar is front and center, and there's no other unnecessary information cluttering the page to distract us from completing our primary task. The example on the right, however, is the exact opposite. a little bit similar to my shirt today, and it's not in any way visually pleasing at all to the eye. There's far too much information, too many colors, probably too many pop-ups and flashing images, all competing for our attention, making it extremely hard to focus or identify the most important information. So this is giving me a headache now. Let's move on very quickly to the 9th heuristic, which is helping users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. So error messages should be clear and concise using plain language. Try to avoid error codes. It should tell the users what went wrong and provide the user with actionable steps that they can follow to quickly recover from the error. So let's now see another example. So in this example on the left, the users encountered an error when attempting to submit a form. We've all seen that before, right? The form displays an error message in context in bold red text, advising the user that email is a mandatory field. So using this information, the user is able to quickly resolve the error and focus on completing their tasks. Whereas the example on the right, the design doesn't provide any useful information whatsoever, and the error message is kind of unclear. So clear error messages help users understand what went wrong and how to fix it, reducing frustration and improving the overall experience. So the 10th and final heuristic, yay, you must all be thinking, is help and documentation. So even though it's better if the software can be used without documentation, it still might be necessary to provide help and documentation if the users get stuck. So this should be easy to search, focused on the user's task, and list concrete steps to be carried out. So this is where you can get really creative, as there's so many ways now that you can implement help and documentation in your apps. Traditionally, you might add a searchable FAQ screen or user guide, but as April suggested, the options are now endless. You can use live chat, you can use virtual assistants like a Copilot, video tutorials, etc., etc. So many things you can do. So in summary, by providing good documentation supports users when they need help, making it easier to resolve issues, creating a positive user experience with the software. So that's the Jacobs 10 usability heuristics. Now I just want to briefly talk about how to document heuristic evaluations. So documenting observations during a heuristic evaluation is critical for effectively communicating usability issues to stakeholders and ensuring that they are in fact addressed. There's no right and wrong way to do this, but there's lots of templates and articles available on the web to help you get started. You can use a simple spreadsheet or a digital whiteboard such as Mural, Miro, Figma, Microsoft Whiteboard, etc. Or you can use all of them. You should detail each observation, specify which heuristic is violated, and provide some context, i.e. include where the issue occurs, and also provide a severity rating. You can just use a rating something like mock 1 out of 5, for example. So try to capture screenshots as well where possible, because this is the best way to communicate usability issues to your stakeholders. Ideally, you want 3 to 5 people to perform the heuristic evaluation, because one person is likely to miss potential errors, particularly if you, the evaluator, is the designer of the app. So each person should also independently perform their own evaluation so they're not influenced by others. So once all the independent evaluations are complete, you can then all come together as a team to review, consolidate, and prioritize those issues to fix. So finally, it's important to remember that heuristic evaluation is not a replacement for usability testing with real users. However, it does provide an extremely useful and quick method to identify usability issues in order to improve the overall user experience. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much indeed for your time and attention today. Let me hand you back to Kat, Anya, and Charlie.
So the first one is around the next month's meeting. I just want to confirm we have speakers. We have Sean and Donna presenting for our September call. Apologies, there was a bit of a mix-up with the time zones for today. This time it wasn't me who was in charge of it, so what you're seeing on the screen is absolutely what is going to be, no changes. There is a QR code, and we also will include link for the registration for the next month. And the last one quickly, it's around a feedback form. If you have a chance, please do submit a quick feedback form. We just want to hear from you. What do you think about the group and what would you like to see moving forward? Also, as I mentioned before, we recorded the session. The recording will be available for you within the next 24 hours. And if you don't follow us yet or either of the channel, please do as well. Again, thank you so very much for everyone joining today, and especially to our two amazing speakers as well. And I hope to see you next month. Thank you.
Yes.